Hey guys, in this video we are going to be making a crochet granny square dress. This dress is made with a number 4 medium weight yarn, and no matter which size you are making, extra small through extra large, you are going to want about 1,000 yards, again of a number 4 medium weight yarn. I am using a Red Heart number 4 yarn. As I said, there are multiple sizes in this pattern, all worked with different sized granny squares, which are all worked the same up until a certain point, or there are slight variations to make the sizes bigger. To choose which size you want to make, you will go off the bust size, which I will put here on the screen. Again, you'll pick the size that works best for you and your measurements, or whoever you are making the dress for, based off of the bust size. So here you can see the different size squares for this pattern, and again they are all basically the same, just worked a little differently to make them slightly larger than the other. And this dress is one circumference all the way up and down, so when determining the size to use, if your waist or hips are bigger than your bust size, you will want to use your biggest measurement when determining which size of dress to use. I will only be going over the size extra small granny square in this video, and there is a written pattern in the description box below that has all of the sizes, extra small through extra large, in detail and with pictures, again in a written pattern in the description box below. To get started with this, we are going to start with a chain of 7. And if you need to see how to do this or anything else in this video, there will be links for those videos in the description box below. If you like this video and channel, please give this a like and subscribe, and leave me a comment to tell me what you think. Also in the description box, you can find the link to my Etsy, and there you can find the written pattern for this pattern, as well as other art that I make and sell, such as macrame pieces, jewelry, t-shirts, and more. So please check that out if you'd like. And lastly, if you'd like to keep up with what I'm doing outside of videos, you can follow me on Instagram at @thecraftnut, and you can also tag me there with the things that you make for my patterns, because I'd love to see your guys' work too. So after you have your chain of 7, we are going to slip stitch into the first chain that we made to form a ring. So again, slip stitch into that first stitch, and then we are going to chain 3, which does count as a double crochet, and then we are going to work 23 more double crochets around this ring. So again, work 23 more double crochets around the ring for a total of 24. When you have 24 double crochets all the way around that ring, including the beginning chain 3, we are then going to slip stitch into the top 3rd stitch of the beginning chain 3, and that is the end of the first row. And you should have 24 double crochets all the way around that round. For the next round, round 2, we're going to start with a chain of 5, and then we're going to skip 2 stitches and single crochet into the next stitch. And then we are going to chain 5, skip 2 stitches, and single crochet into the next stitch. And that is what we are going to do all the way around this round. Again, by chaining 5, skipping 2 stitches, and single crocheting into the next stitch, and do that until you have 2 stitches left. When you have 2 stitches left at the end of that round, we will then chain 2, and we're going to double crochet into the very first stitch of the round that we started in, which is the 3rd chain of the beginning 3 from the last round. So again, double crochet into that stitch, and that will put us at the top middle of this chain 5. space. And that is the end of round 2. For round 3, we are going to start with a chain of 2, which counts as a half double crochet. And then we are going to half double crochet into this same double crochet that we're working off of. So that is now 2 half double crochets. And we're going to work 5 more half double crochets all into the same stitch for a total of 7 half double crochets, including that beginning chain 2, all in this same stitch. When you have those 7 half double crochets, we will then go on to do the same thing in the 3rd chain of the next 5. So on this first one, you should count back from here. So 1, 2, and 3, because the first one is always kind of hidden under this double crochet. So make sure to get it into the 3rd chain. And again, we are going to work 7 half double crochets into this stitch. And that is what we are going to do all the way around this round. So again, when you have 7 half double crochets in this stitch, we will then go on to the 3rd chain of the next 5 and work 7 half double crochets in that stitch as well. And we are going to do that all the way around this round. When you've made it all the way around that round and you have 7 half double crochets in the last 3rd chain of the last chain 5, we will then slip stitch into the 2nd chain of the beginning 2 from the beginning of this round. And that is the end of round 3. For round 4, we are going to start off by slip stitching into the next stitch so that we're starting off in this next stitch. And then we are going to start with a chain of 5, which counts as a double crochet with the last loop on the hook, and a chain of 3. Then we are going to skip a stitch and double crochet in the next stitch, and then we will chain 4 and double crochet into the same stitch. And this is our first corner. We are now turning this into a square. Then we are going to chain 3, skip a stitch, and start a double crochet in the next stitch, leaving the last 2 loops on the hook. Then we are going to skip 2 stitches and start a double crochet in the next stitch. And then we are going to bring those 2 stitches together and 1, 2 double crochet together. Then we will chain 3, skip a stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch. And then we are going to chain 3, skip a stitch, and start a double crochet in the next stitch. Skip 2 stitches and start a double crochet in the next stitch. And then bring those 2 stitches together and 1, 2 double crochet together. Then we're going to chain 3 and repeat this same thing that we just did, starting from the corner to this chain 3 2 more times until you have finished the 4th corner. So again, ending from this chain 3, we are going to skip a stitch and double crochet in the next stitch. And this is the 2nd corner. Then we are going to chain 4 and double crochet in the same stitch. Then chain 3, skip a stitch and double crochet in the next stitch, leaving the last 2 loops on the hook. Skip 2 stitches and start a double crochet in the next stitch, and then bring those 2 double crochets together and 1, 2 double crochet together. Then we will chain 3 and skip a stitch and single crochet into the next stitch, chain 3, skip a stitch and start a double crochet in the next stitch, leaving the last 2 loops on the hook, skip 2 stitches, start a double crochet in the next stitch, and bring those 2 stitches together in 1 2 double crochet together, chain 3, and again do this one more time until you have finished the 4th corner. When you've gotten through the 4th corner, which is the double crochet, the chain 4, and the double crochet in the same stitch, we will then just have a few stitches left until we are back to the beginning. So again, after this 4th corner, we are again going to chain 3 and work this the same as we would by skipping a stitch and bringing these 2 stitches together in 1 2 double crochet together, again just like we have been, and then chain 3, skip a stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. And now we are at the very end where it's a little different, so we are again going to chain 3, and we are going to skip a stitch and start a double crochet in the next stitch, leaving the last 2 loops on the hook. And then we are going to insert our hook into the second chain of this beginning 5 from the beginning of the round. So again, just insert your hook into that stitch, and then we're going to pull up a loop through that stitch, and then pull that loop that we just brought up through the 2 loops that are already on our hook, and we will make that a 1 2 double crochet together. And that is the end of the 4th round. For round 5, we are going to start by slip stitching around this first chain 3 space. So just insert your hook into the space, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on your hook, so that we are starting in this chain 3 space. And then we are going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're going to work 3 single crochets around this first chain 3 space, and then we're going to work 5 single crochets around this chain 4 space for the corner. So again, work 5 single crochets in the chain 4 space, and then we are going to go on to work 3 single crochets in the next 4 chain 3 spaces. So again, work 3 single crochets in each one of these 4 chain 3 spaces, which will take you to the next corner, where you will work 5 single crochets in this chain 4 space. So again, for this 5th round, you will want to work 3 single crochets in each chain 3 space and 5 single crochets in each chain 4 space, all the way around this round until you come back to this beginning stitch of this round. When you've made it back to the beginning single crochet of that round, we are then going to slip stitch into the top of that beginning single crochet, and that is the end of round 5. And at the end of this round, you should have 68 single crochets all the way around. For round 6, it is the last round of the extra small square. So for this round, we are going to start with the chain of 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're going to single crochet into the same first stitch, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches, which will bring us to the very middle stitch of the 5 stitches on the corner. And in this very middle stitch of the corner, we are going to work 3 single crochets. Then we're going to go on to work 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches. And when you've worked 1 single crochet in those 16 stitches, you will then be at the middle stitch of the next corner, So again, we'll work 3 single crochets into this middle stitch of the corner, and we will continue doing this all the way around, again working 1 single crochet in the next 16 stitches until you come to the next middle stitch of the next corner, where you will work 3 single crochets all in the same stitch, and do this all the way around until you have finished the 4th corner. And then you will continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch until you come back to the beginning single crochet of this round. When you've made it all the way around the square and you've made it back to the beginning single crochet of the round, we will then slip stitch into the top of that beginning single crochet, and that is the end of round 6 on the extra small granny square. And again, this was the last round, and at the end of this round you should have 76 single crochets all the way around. When you have the first granny square in the size that you want made, you will then want to start making a bunch of granny squares. You will need at least 8 granny squares to go around you one time, like you see here. So where the points are at the top are where the straps are going to come off at the top here. And again, we have this sewn in a zigzag pattern, which I will explain more here in a minute. But we have this zigzag pattern made, and so when you fold it in half and make the top points match, it folds this one square in half, and we have this one left out here, which will be folded across like this and sewn together here, and this will be one time all the way around. So again, your straps are going to be coming off of these top points here, and so that is where you're going to want to measure your length from, wherever you want the top of your dress to sit and your straps to start. You'll want to measure from there down with how many granny squares you're making. So again, this is the extra small, and these granny squares measure about 7 inches from one corner to the other, measuring diagonally across the square. And after you have these first 8 squares sewn together, they are then going to be pieced together like so, with again 1 on the front and 1 on the back. They'll be pieced together like this, with another 2 here, and then another 2 here, and this will be the exact same thing that we have here, and again with another square attached folded there, and another square attached folded here. And again, this is the exact same thing as this, and you'll sew them together the exact same way and then connect them. But again, this is also how you are going to measure how long and how many squares you are going to want and need. So again, here is where your strap will start, and you'll want to start making granny squares and laying them out like this, so you can see the length that you have. So already the length that we have here, starting from the top of the strap, is about 21 inches from the strap to where the bottom of this bottom square sits here. And of course that's not long enough for the whole dress, but you will want to continue making squares to fill in the rest of these holes, going all the way down until you have the length for your dress that you would like. I made 28 squares in total for a size extra small square, an extra small dress, and measuring from where the top of the strap is to where the bottom of the bottom square is when I have them all laid out is about 32 inches long. On someone about my height, which is about 5'3" or 5'4", that will be about knee length or a little lower, and I am going to add fringe to the bottom of this as well, which will also add length. So again, one more time, you'll just want to go on to work as many granny squares as you need until you get the length, measuring from where the straps start to the bottom of your bottom granny square when they are laid out in this pattern, and get the length for your dress and as many granny squares as you need to get that length as you need to make it the length that you would like. When you have all of your granny squares made, or at least some of them made, and you would like to start sewing them together, then we are going to start by sewing 8 of them together in that zigzag pattern that I have already showed you. So to do that, we are going to start with just 2 granny squares, and we are going to start with them right side up. So there's the wrong side and the right side. We're going to start with them right side up. I'm going to put the 2 sides with the ends on them together to sew them in there and hide that. And so I'm going to put the 2 faces together. And we are going to start at one corner and sew the 2 connecting sides together. So again, this will be a zigzag. I'm connecting it like this, with the 2 sides with the seam matching up. And then we are going to sew these together. Also, I'm going to start sewing on this corner, even though that's going to make me have to turn it all the way around and backwards to start sewing. I'm going to start sewing on this corner, and I have an extra long string, longer than I need for just this side. That way, when I get to this corner and I'm ready to start sewing on the next square, I can just continue on down this next seam with the same string, and I don't have to tie it off at the end of this square and at the beginning of the next. So again, I'm connecting the 2 faces, starting on this corner over here, and we're going to start in the very middle corner stitch of both squares, which is the middle stitch of those 3 in the corner. So I'm just going to tie these 2 stitches together with the string, and then I'm going to go through the same 2 stitches again one more time, just to make sure that that's done well. And I'm going to hold this tail down as I go along as well. So we're just going to be whip stitching this together all the way down. So even though our string is in the back, we're going to come back to the front and whip stitch this together, going through the next stitch on both squares from the front to the back and pulling that through. And that is what we are going to do all the way across this side of these 2 squares. So again, through the next 2 stitches, through the first and the second, from the front to the back, we are going to whip stitch this together until you come to the middle corner stitch of both squares on the next corner. When you have made it all the way down that one side, whip stitching your 2 squares together, and you have made it to the middle stitch of the next corner, I'm actually going to go through these 2 stitches again one more time. Again, just to make sure that that's done well and that those very corners stick together well. So if you made your string only long enough to sew those 2 edges together, you will then want to finish this off. But if you made yours long enough to continue on, like I did, you'll want to just leave your string here and kind of put it down. And then we're going to unfold our squares like so. And again, I'll put my string so that it's coming off where the next square is going to go on. So we're going to start with 1 up square and 1 down square, and then we are going to go up again. And again, I'm going to make my seam side right here where it connects so that it easily hides that seam. And we are just going to do the exact same thing now by connecting these two edges. So we're going to fold this square over so the two faces face each other. And I'm going to start on this corner since that's where my string is coming off. So I'm going to turn this, and my string is already in the middle corner stitch of this square. So I'm just going to start off in that same stitch and with the middle stitch of the corner of this square. And we're just going to take our needle, go through that stitch, and go through that stitch. And again, I'm going to go through them again one more time. And then we will continue working the exact same way down this edge of these two squares, connecting these two sides. So go through the next two stitches from the front to the back and whip stitch these two edges together, connecting these two squares. When you have again made it to the next corner with those two squares connecting where you folded it, you will again want to finish it off if you do not have enough string to continue on and work the next square. And if you have enough string to continue on still, like I do, you will again just set your string to the side, and we are going to unfold this square now. And now we have 3 squares connected. So again, now we have 3 squares connected, which we have 2 up squares and 1 down square. And again, for instance, these 2 up points will be where straps will come off of, or where it will fit into the next set of 8 squares. But now we are going to want to go on to do another down square. So again, if you've continued on with the same string, your string should come off right here, and it will work for your next square. So we will take our next square and we'll place it at the bottom of this up square. So again, this next square will be a down square. So I'm going to place my seamed edge along the edge that is going to be connected, flip my square over onto that side so I can sew the 2 sides I want connected together, turn it so that my string is where I want to start sewing. And again, I'm already in the middle stitch of this square of the corner. So I'm just going to go through the middle stitch of the corner of this next new square and the same middle stitch of that last square, and do that one more time. And then I'm going to continue whip stitching these 2 squares together all the way across until I come to the next middle stitch of the next corner. When you've made it all the way across those 2 squares into the next middle stitch of the next corner, we will then turn it so we have our 2 up squares, and then unfold this, and now we have 2 down squares as well. And again, if your string was not long enough at the end of these 2 squares to continue on sewing the next 2 squares together, you will want to finish that off. And if it was long enough to continue on doing the next 2 squares, then just leave it to the side and continue doing it the same way we have been doing it. And that goes for at any point. If your string is not long enough to continue on doing the next 2 squares, you'll want to finish it off at the end of the last square that it did finish, and then just continue on with the new string for the next 2 squares. And at this point, we are just going to continue on doing this exact same thing that we just did, until you have 8 squares put together in this zigzag pattern. So at this point, we now have our next down square, just like we did here. We started with the top, and then a down, and then up and a down, and now we are just going to go up again. So we're going to place another square here, just like we did when we did it right here, and then we will fold the square over so that the two edges we want to be connected are matching up. And then you will want to start in the corner where the last square is and start in the very corner stitches of the two squares that are connecting, and sew along this edge until you get to the next corner middle stitch, and then you will unfold the square and make another down square. And again, you will continue sewing these squares together in this zigzag pattern until you have 8 squares put together in the zigzag pattern. When you have 8 of your squares sewn together in this zigzag pattern, you will want to lay it out. And like I said, these top points are where these straps will come off of. So you will then fold it in half so that the top square points are matching. And then this extra square that is hanging off, you will fold over diagonally. And these two sides will connect when we are ready. For right now, you are going to want to go on to connect all of the squares that you have for the length of your dress in sections of 8, like this. So right here, I have 8 of them sewn together, and I have 28 squares all together. So I'm going to go through and make strips, just like this, of 8 squares sewn together, until I have all of the strips of 8 squares that I can have together done. And if you have a few squares left over at the bottom that cannot be made into a zigzag of 8, that is fine. I will show you what to do with those as well, because I do have those at the bottom of this dress. But again, for now, go on to sew all of your squares together until you have strips of 8 squares together like this. And any remaining squares that you have left over, we will add at the end. When you have all of the squares that you can have in zigzags made, you will then start to connect the zigzags together. So again, once you have this zigzag, we will fold this over so that the two top points meet. And this is where your straps will come off of. And we will fold this extra square over diagonally. And that is one zigzagged panel of our dress. Once we have one zigzag panel of our dress made, we're going to keep it folded like this. And we're going to take another zigzag panel, fold it up exactly the same way, and it's going to go right underneath it so that the squares fill in those empty squares in the zigzag. So again, this is a panel of 8 folded, and this is a panel of 8 folded as well. And you should have all of your panels made like this for the length of your dress, unless you have some individual squares, which I will show you how to connect when it is time. So again, once you have your panels made up like this and laid out in this way, we are just going to unfold them, and you will see that all of the lines match up just in the exact same zigzag pattern. And so now we are going to go on to do the exact same thing for this zigzag here that we did for the original zigzags in these 8 squared panels. Again, you somewhat have the hang of this if you've done this already, because this is the exact same zigzag that we have already done throughout all of these squares. So again, we are now just going to go on to connect the edges that are connecting right now. And a nice way to keep track of this is by taking some of these sewing clips and clipping these edges together. The edges that you need to sew together. Just clip them all the way across. And then you can just follow that line and sew these edges together all the way across these two panels. So I went ahead and clipped that all the way across so you could see exactly how that would look if you were to also clip it. And again, those are all of the edges that are needing to be connected throughout this zigzag. Once you have the first two zigzags connected, you will then continue doing the exact same thing with all of the panels that you have made. Again, lining up the next panel the same exact way and sewing along the edges that are connecting and clipping them together if you need to keep track of them as you go. Once you have all of your zigzag panels put together, if you have any individual squares that need to be sewn on, you are going to just sew them on individually, continuing the zigzag pattern as it is. So here on this row, you have one extra square protruding on that side, and on the row before that, the extra square is on this side. So you're going to want to repeat the second to last row of squares on the next row with your individual squares. So filling in these ones with these squares, and your extra square will be over here, copying the second to last line before that. And you will go on continuing to sew these edges together, where these individual squares meet the edges of the last 8 squared panel that you have, continuing that zigzag all the way across. Once you have all of your zigzags sewn together, as well as your individual squares at the bottom, and you have it put together looking like this, we are then going to take this and fold it so that our top points are meeting for our straps, like I have been pointing out. And then we are going to take these extra squares here that are stuck out, and we're going to fold them in to fill in those holes. And now we are going to go on to do the same thing we have been doing by sewing this zigzag edge together. So again, we are going to sew along this zigzagged edge where these squares meet, and we are just going to sew along the edges that are connecting all the way up and down the side of this dress. And again, if you need to clip them together to keep track of which edges are being sewn together, then go ahead and do so, because I know that that definitely helps me keep track of it as I'm going and as things are moving. When you have your whole dress sewn together with the edges on the side sewn together and all the way from the top to the bottom with your zigzags again sewn together, we are then going to go on to work the straps for this dress. So you're going to want to turn your dress right side out so that your seams are now on the inside. And you're going to want to figure out which side is the top and line up your corners that are going to be the corners that you work your straps off of. And both ends of my dress look the same with 2 of the same corners. So it does not matter for me, but it may not be the same on your dress. So you may only have one option in that area. When you've decided where you're going to work your straps off of, you're going to choose one side to be the back and one side to be the front. And we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook. And we're going to slip stitch into any stitch along the top of one of these squares. And when you have slip stitch onto a stitch, we are then going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we are going to single crochet into the same first stitch, and then work 1 single crochet in each stitch until you come to the very middle stitch on the very top of this first corner. When you've worked 1 single crochet in each stitch until you've come to that middle stitch in the top corner where your strap is going to come off of, we are now going to work the chain for our strap. So again, we are just going to start chaining a chain, and you're going to want to make this chain as long as you would like your strap to be. If you do not know how long you would like your strap to be, you can either measure from the top of your shoulder to where you would like the top of your dress to sit, and then multiply that by 2 for the front and back of the strap and use that length. Or you can measure a shirt that has a strap already and use the length of the strap on a previous owned shirt. I'm going to go on to work my strap to be about 10 inches long. When you have the length for your strap that you would like, we are then going to go to the corner that is corresponding with the strap that you are making. So again, these top corners are where my one strap is going to come off of. So we started on this corner with the strap, and we are now going to go to the corresponding corner on the front of the dress. So we are going to turn our work so that we are looking at the front of it and at this corresponding corner. Then we are going to work a single crochet into the very middle stitch of the corresponding corner. Again, work a single crochet into that stitch, and then we are going to continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way down this square and up the next square until you come to this top corner where the second strap is going to come off of. Also, you will want to make sure to remember how many chains you used for your first strap so that you can use the same amount of chains for your second strap. When you've made it to the middle stitch on the top of the second corner on the front of the dress, we are then going to work the chain for the second strap. So again, you are going to want to chain as many chains that you chained for your first strap for this second strap. When you have the length for your strap that you would like for your second strap, we are then again going to come to the corresponding corner for the back of the dress. Again, that is matching up with the corner that we are on now. And we are now going from the front to the back of the dress where we started from. So we are again going to turn our work so that we are looking at the back of the dress. And we are going to single crochet into the middle stitch on that top corner on the back square, just like we did for the first strap. And then we are going to continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way down this square and up the next until you come back to where you started with your first single crochet for this strapped border. When you've made it back to the beginning single crochet of this strapped border, we are then just going to slip stitch into the top of that beginning single crochet, and we are going to finish this off, and then we are going to go on to work the other side of the straps, which we will work in what is now our armholes. So we will be doing 1 on this side with this armhole and 1 on this side. So to work the other half of the strap, we are going to work in what is now the armhole, and we are going to start on the back, so where we started on the other border as well. I'm just going to slip stitch into any stitch along this back square, just like we did for the other border. And we're going to start with a chain 1 and single crochet into the same first stitch, and work 1 single crochet in each stitch down this first square and up the next square, which will then be on the front of the dress. So this is going down the back square, and then we will go up the front until we come to the strap. And we will start here in this last available stitch on the front square. When you've made it all the way up the front square and you've single crocheted in the last available stitch, we are then going to work 1 single crochet in the very middle stitch for the corner again. So there are now 2 single crochets in that stitch. And then we're going to start working single crochets in the chain for the strap. So just insert your hook into this first chain and work a single crochet, and then continue working single crochets into each chain that you have for your strap all the way across the chain. When you've made it across the strap with 1 single crochet in each chain all the way across, and you are now back at the square on the back, we are going to do the same thing for the back that we did on the front. So we are going to work another single crochet in this middle stitch on the top corner. Again, so now there are 2 single crochets in that same stitch. And then we are going to continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch down this back square until you get back to the beginning single crochet of this armhole border. And then you will slip stitch into the top of this beginning single crochet, just like we did for the first border, and finish that off. And then you are going to want to go on to do this exact same thing for the second armhole on the other side. If you would like a thicker strap than just this 1 single crochet strap, you can go on to work more borders or rounds around the border on either the inside of the strap or the armhole of the strap. It is up to you which side you make thicker, but if you wanted to make that strap thicker, then you would just continue going around whichever side you would like to go around until you achieve the desired thickness of your strap. When you have your straps finished, we are going to work 1 more border all the way around the bottom of our dress before adding fringe on, if you want to add fringe. So to do this, you're going to want to continue to start on the side that is the back of your dress, and you are going to want to slip stitch into any stitch on the back of your dress. And we are going to work this almost the same as our strap border. So you're going to want to chain 1 and single crochet into the same first stitch, and continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch until you come to your first pointed corner. And in this pointed corner, you're going to want to work 3 single crochets instead of working a strap. You are going to want to work 3 single crochets into this middle stitch for the corner, and then continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way down this square and up the next until you again come to a corner point, where you will again work 3 single crochets into that middle stitch and continue working 1 single crochet in each stitch until you encounter each of those top corners, where you will work 3 single crochets into each top corner point all the way around, otherwise working 1 single crochet into each stitch until you come back to the beginning single crochet of the round. When you make it back to the beginning single crochet of this round, you will then slip stitch into the top of that single crochet and finish that off. And if you would like to work more than that 1 round, of course you can, and if not, again finish that off, and then we'll add the fringe. When you are ready to add the fringe, you are going to want to take a piece of string, double the length that you would like it to be when it hangs off your dress. So I have a 12-inch piece of string, therefore my fringe will be 6 inches. And you're going to want to take your string and fold it in half. Insert your hook into a stitch and hook your string onto your hook. Pull it through the stitch and then pull the loose ends through the loop and pull that tight. And you're going to want to do that in every stitch that you would like fringe in. I'm going to add fringe in every stitch all the way along the bottom, and you can add as much or as little fringe as you would like and make it as long or as short as you would like it to be. And that's all there is to it. So I hope that that was helpful and enjoyable for you. If it was, please hit that sub, like, and bell button and leave me a comment to tell me what you think. I hope that you guys go on to create many more amazing things. And until next time, guys, I'll see ya.